Welcome to the arena, everyone. It is night 4 of our 5-night event inside the arena with Charles Barkley, Draymond Green, and Jemele Hill. But first, we definitely want to say thank you, D-Wade, for being here and adding invaluable perspective to all of our conversations. But we're equally as excited to have Jemele Hill partaking in conversations tonight. For the focus, so you know, tonight we focus on the player's identity, on and off the court. We all know that the sport world can take you from a poor, poverty-stricken person to a millionaire overnight. But that still doesn't exclude your skin color. Chuck talked about that the other day. Jemele, I want to get your take. You've been watching the show all week long. How are you feeling about our conversations?
Well, I've learned a lot. And, you know, as someone who often writes and commentates in this space, it's been really valuable to hear Charles's perspective, Draymond's perspective, your perspective, and even D-Wade, who you mentioned, because I think a lot of people who watch you all perform, be it on the court, watch you on TNT as many years as we watch you, Chuck, they tend to put you in a box and not realize that there's a whole life and experiences that you've lived. You know, we're going to talk about Giannis here in a moment, and he's a perfect embodiment of that people need to know what these players have been through to understand why they're so passionate about some of the issues that are at the forefront of our country today.
Yeah, you know, and I love basketball. I'm a poor kid from Leeds, zero idea.
But feel that way about TV.
Yeah, but basketball, I love.
I agree with Chuck. You know, being a current player, I could have never
piggyback on something Draymond said, because you talked about in your little piece.
Meanwhile, when politics and sports intersect, you often hear stick to sports. The problem is the two are not always mutually exclusive. When Colin Kaepernick took a knee, it divided a culture and a fan base. In my opinion, he was on the right side of history, and because of him, his peers feel more empowered. A revolution is the biggest form or the greatest form of self-defense. You could see players are a part of this revolution. They said that they are going to hold Roger Goodell accountable in so many words. Your take on what you're feeling about the NFL and what their commitment is to this movement?
I agree with what Josh Norman said. We'll see. And what people need to realize, you saw Roger Goodell say something. Roger Goodell works for the owners. There are 32 NFL owners, most of which you have not heard from in this moment. We don't know what they think. And particularly since a lot of those owners tend to have more conservative principles, they have not been behind this movement, and they certainly sold Colin Kaepernick out. I just have a lot of mistrust when it comes to what they will actually do. And while it's interesting that they've proposed all these different gestures, singing the Black National Anthem and other things that are cosmetic, they need to address what's happening in their own league. There are 3 Black NFL coaches. There are 2 Black general managers. There has never been a majority Black owner in that league. They need to address that before they try to solve other issues. Solve the issues in your own league, and then we'll see whether or not they're actually being truthful about their plans on investing in seeing Black people elevated and amplified.
Well, you know, it's interesting. As long as we've been talking about Black coaches and that's dominated by Black men, and it's really us together, because really Black people need. You know, I wonder how all these young Black kids.
Chuck, something you said earlier, you were speaking about your finances, and you said it took you $2 or $3 million. Us who's had the opportunity to go out and make money and learn financial literacy. That
really important. We've discussed that on so many different levels. Last night, you and I talked about that. I want to circle back to what these NFL players are doing. And Chuck, I asked this to you. Do you believe that the NFL will be behind these players once the season starts?
Nope.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I do disagree with that.
With what?
They definitely have a choice. I mean, they've already given us the blueprint of what they will do. They will go back to making money. They will go back to not caring about many of these issues. They don't want to see business disrupted. Roger Goodell can say that, and look, I don't know whether he is being truthful or if he's just caught up in the moment, but ultimately this is on NFL ownership. Okay, and they are very hard to move in this area. So it's just hard for me to believe that they will suddenly become on board with this.
Well, what I mean by they have no choice, but the players got to hold them accountable. I mean, it's up to us, but Dre, for the first time ever, like, we have to say the same thing every year, man. What are you?
Find out the season will start sooner rather than later, guys. We gotta. How dare you?
My brother got it all the way
LeBron,
together,
that's not
man.
amazing. It's easy to admit you made a mistake when there are no consequences, but when it's time to change your entire thought process, well, that's pretty hard to do. So today, my champion is a guy who admittedly says he got it wrong when it comes to race. Why does Black Lives Matter turn people off?
Well, I think a lot of people are sometimes intent on misunderstanding. And Black Lives Matter is just a slogan we're talking about today. But these are issues that we've been talking about for a really long time, but they just have been able to be summed up just very simply, Black Lives Matter. And I'm glad that that was somebody you highlighted as a champion, because we've been having these conversations now for months, right? And the number one question I keep getting, or at some point when I do panels and town halls and all these things, is, well, what can white people do? How can we be better allies? Like, what can we do? Take cues from what he did. He misunderstood. He was not as educated. He got informed. It required him to do work. And the one thing that I have certainly refused to do in this moment, because we all got access to Google, we all have access to information.
Good point.
I'm out of teaching. It is not the responsibility of those who have been oppressed and victimized under this system to teach you. It is your responsibility to go out and learn, because all the facts are there. We've been saying it. It's a matter, do you believe us or do you not? So you have to pick what side you're really trying to be on, and that lets me know what your true intent is.
I love what this guy said, because I agree with Jemele in the sense of they say something about the Jewish community. They are...
I just want you to know, Shaq, when they're telling you we got like...
I know.
What you did to me yesterday.
He make an eloquent point.
We're back tomorrow. Chuck will be talking, okay? Thank you, Jay. Hey, Shaq.